Hello everyone. Welcome to Tales of Light. What if the most powerful thing you ever said was nothing at all? What if one quiet moment, one choice to stay silent, could save your job, protect your peace, and change how people see you forever? This is the story of a man named Robert. On a Thursday afternoon, in a crowded office meeting, he stood there in front of everyone, heart racing, face burning, while his name was dragged through the mud. Everyone waited for him to explode, to shout back, to defend himself. But Robert did something very different. He chose silence. Not weak silence. Not scared silence. A calm, strong, painful kind of silence that would later change everything. Most people thought he had lost. They thought he had been defeated. But what they did not know was that this silence was the beginning of his biggest win. So stay with this story till the end. Because by the time you finish, you might see your own anger, your words, and your silence in a very different way. This is not just Robert's story. It might be yours too. Robert lived a simple life. He woke up early, made his coffee, checked his emails, and went to the same office he had been going to for years. He was not the loudest person in the room. He was the one sitting quietly with his notebook. The kind of man who listened more than he spoke. At work, people like to say, Robert is solid. He is dependable. He does not cause drama. He worked as an analyst in a mid-sized company. Nothing fancy. Spreadsheets, reports, presentations. The kind of job where mistakes could cost money and trust was everything. There was one person in the office who was the complete opposite of Robert. His name was Mark. Mark was loud, charming, always talking, always telling stories about how important he was to the company. In every meeting, Mark's voice was the first one you heard. And sometimes, it felt like Mark needed people to see him as the hero. Robert and Mark worked on the same team. Their manager, Ms. Lewis, was strict but fair. She pushed them hard because the company was going through changes, and this next project was critical. One day, the boss announced a big client deal, a high-pressure project. If it went well, their team would shine. If it went badly, there could be layoffs. Robert stayed late many nights, quietly working on the numbers, building the main report, checking every line. He wanted it to be perfect. For his boss, for the team, for his own sense of pride. Mark, on the other hand, focused on the presentation part. He loved talking in front of people. He liked the spotlight. So the unspoken deal was simple. Robert would build the foundation. Mark would stand in front and take the credit. Robert felt a small sting about that. But he told himself, "It is okay. My work will speak for itself. I do not have to be loud to have value." At home, his life was quiet too. A small apartment, a few plants by the window, a framed photo of his father on the shelf. His father had passed away a few years earlier, but one thing he said always stayed in Robert's mind. Not every fight needs your voice. Sometimes your silence is your strongest answer. Back then, Robert did not fully understand it, but he was about to learn what it really meant. The big day came. The client presentation. Everyone from the team was there. The client's representatives. The director from upstairs. It was the kind of room where one mistake could follow you for years. Robert sat near the screen, laptop ready. He had checked the numbers again that morning. Everything matched. Everything was solid. Mark stood at the front with confidence, clicking through slides, his voice smooth and loud. At first, it went well. He talked about growth, strategy, future plans. The clients nodded along. Then one of the clients frowned. She leaned forward, eyes narrow, and said, "These numbers here do not match the report we received last month. There is a serious gap. Can you explain this?" The room went quiet. Mark looked at the screen. His face changed for a second. Confusion, then something else. Panic. He turned toward Robert. And then, without warning, he spoke in a sharp voice. Robert handled the data. This must be his mistake. The words hit Robert like a punch. Everyone turned to look at him. His heart started beating faster. His hands felt cold. He knew he had checked everything. He knew those numbers were right. Ms. Lewis, the manager, looked at him with disappointment in her eyes. "Is this true, Robert?" she asked. In that moment, one part of him wanted to shout. To say, "No, I did my job. You changed something. Do not put this on me." Every unfair thing he had ever felt at work rose up inside him. Every time someone else took credit, every time someone talked over him, he could feel the anger pushing against his chest, demanding to be released. But then, quietly, another memory came. His father's voice in his head. Not every fight needs your voice. Sometimes your silence is your strongest answer. Robert took a slow breath. He looked at the screen. He looked at the faces around the table. And instead of exploding, he said only, "I would like to review the data carefully before I respond. I am not sure where this gap came from." His voice was calm. Too calm, some thought. Mark jumped in quickly. "Well, the data was under your control, so I guess we know where to start," Mark said, pretending to laugh it off. A few people looked away, uncomfortable. Some of them already made their judgment. After the meeting, Ms. Lewis pulled Robert aside. "This is serious," she said. "The client is upset. We will have to talk about your performance." The word, "your" stung. Robert wanted to defend himself, to name Mark, to argue, but he stayed mostly quiet. He simply said, "I understand. Let me investigate the file history and the original reports. Then I will come back to you." Walking back to his desk felt like walking through water. Everything was heavy. Every whisper in the office sounded like it was about him. At home that night, he sat in the dark for a moment. He could have called a friend to complain. He could have posted online about how unfair work was. He could have sent long emails defending himself. Instead, he opened his laptop. He decided that before he used his voice, he would use his mind. He went through the files, one by one. He checked the timestamps, the change logs, the emails. His eyes were tired, but his focus was sharp. And then he saw it. A version of the report that had been edited after he had finished. The changes lined up exactly with Mark's login time. The mistake was not Robert's. It was Mark's. Or worse, it looked like Mark had changed the numbers to make the story look better, and in doing so, created the gap the client had noticed. Robert sat back in his chair. He had proof. He had been quiet all day. Now the question was simple. What would he do with the truth? The next morning, the office felt different. Or maybe Robert just felt different walking into it. He was still quiet, but his silence now had weight. It was not confusion anymore. It was clarity. Ms. Lewis called him into a small meeting room. She sat across from him, a folder on the table. "Robert," she began, "we cannot afford this kind of mistake. The client is already questioning our professionalism." He listened without interrupting. He let her finish every sentence. When she was done, she waited for him to speak. For a long explanation. For excuses. Instead, Robert gently opened his laptop and turned it toward her. "I would like to show you something," he said. He walked her through the original files. The timestamps. The version history. The moment where the data had been changed. His voice stayed calm. No anger. No bitterness. He did not attack Mark. He did not raise his voice. He just showed the truth. At one point, he paused and said, "I am responsible for my work, and I stand by the work I did. This change was made after I had finished my part." Ms. Lewis leaned in closer, her eyes narrowing on the screen. Slowly, her face changed. From doubt, to surprise, to something like regret. "Are you saying Mark edited these numbers after you?" she asked. "I am saying these are the logs," Robert replied. "This is the record." Again, he did not add extra words. He did not spin a story. He simply let the facts speak. Later that afternoon, there was another meeting. This time, It was smaller but more intense. Ms. Lewis, Robert, Mark, and a senior director. The air in the room felt heavy. The director spoke first. We reviewed the file history. It seems the numbers were changed after Robert completed his work. Mark, can you explain this? For the first time, Mark did not look so confident. He shifted in his seat. His usual smooth voice cracked a little. I thought I was just adjusting a few things to make the story clearer, he said. I did not realize it would create a gap. The director's face stayed cold. Then why did you blame Robert in front of the client? Mark's eyes flicked to Robert, who sat there quietly. Robert was not smiling. He was not gloating. He just listened, the same way he always did. Silence filled the room again. But this time, it was not awkward. It was powerful. Because Robert had not shouted earlier. Because he had not argued in the hallway. Because he had not sent angry messages that could be used against him. His calm silence gave his words strength now. When he finally spoke, every word mattered. I do not want anyone to be punished, Robert said. I just want the truth to be clear. And I want to be trusted with my work. That line stayed in the room like a weight. The director nodded slowly. Robert, your work has been solid for years. This situation has made that even clearer. We will address this internally. Mark looked down. His usual rush of words was gone. He had talked so much before. But now, there was nothing left to say. In that moment, Robert understood something deeply. He had won more by staying silent at the right time than he ever could have won by shouting in anger. In the weeks that followed, things slowly changed. Mark lost some of the easy trust he once had. He stayed on the team, but there were new checks on his work. He talked a little less in meetings. Robert, on the other hand, did not suddenly become loud. He did not turn into someone else. He was still quiet, still thoughtful, but people looked at him differently now. When he spoke, they listened, because they had seen him stay calm under pressure. They had seen him choose truth over drama. One afternoon, Ms. Lewis stopped by his desk. You know, she said, most people would have yelled. Most people would have tried to fight back in that meeting. You chose a different way. Robert smiled softly. I was angry, he admitted, but I wanted the facts to speak for me. She nodded. Sometimes staying silent in the moment gives your truth more power later, she said. And that is the heart of this story. Staying silent does not mean you let people walk all over you. It does not mean you ignore injustice. It does not mean you never defend yourself. It means you choose your battles. You choose your timing. You choose not to pour your energy into every insult, every misunderstanding, every person who wants to drag you into chaos. Silence is powerful when it is active, not passive. When you are not hiding. When you are watching, thinking, gathering yourself. Think about your own life for a moment. How many arguments have you had that went nowhere? How many times have you said something in anger and wished later you had stayed quiet? Maybe there was a text you should not have sent, a comment online you should not have posted, a heated response you should have swallowed and replaced with a deep breath. Staying silent is not about losing the fight. It is about choosing not to fight in the wrong way or at the wrong time. Robert won more by staying silent because his silence gave space for the truth. It allowed the facts to appear without being covered by noise. It protected his character, and it also revealed something about Mark. When someone depends only on loud words and blame, their own character eventually speaks louder than anything you can say about them. Sometimes you do not need to prove someone wrong. Life, time, and truth will do it for you. So, what can you take from Robert's story into your own life? Next time someone attacks you with words. Next time someone twists a story to make you look bad. Next time you feel that fire rising in your chest and your fingers itching to type a long, angry message. Pause. Ask yourself a few simple questions. Is this worth my energy? Will shouting right now actually help? Do I have the full truth yet? Or do I just have my emotion? Sometimes the strongest move you can make is to say nothing in that moment, to step back, to collect yourself, to let people reveal who they are without your help. This does not mean you let people abuse you. In real danger, you must speak up. You must protect yourself. But in everyday battles of ego, blame, and pride, silence is often your shield. Robert's silence did not erase the truth. It made the truth louder when the time was right. Remember this. You do not have to attend every argument you are invited to. You do not have to explain yourself to everyone who misunderstands you. Sometimes the people who matter will watch your actions over time, not just your words in one heated moment. Your calm is your strength. Your patience is your protection. Your silence, when chosen wisely, is your power. This was the story of a man named Robert, a quiet man who learned that you do not always win by speaking louder. Sometimes, you win more by staying silent, watching, and letting the truth come to the surface. Now think about your own life. Is there a place where you need to stop reacting and start responding with calm? Is there a situation where silence might protect your peace and give your truth more power later? If this story touched you, if it made you think of a moment when you spoke too fast, or a moment when staying silent saved you, share it in the comments. Your story might help someone else. If you want more stories like this, stories that gently shine a light on everyday choices and hidden strength, make sure you like this video. Share it with someone who is going through a hard time at work, in their family, or in their friendships. And do not forget to subscribe to Tales of Light. This is where simple stories meet deep lessons, where quiet moments can change everything. Thank you for listening. Take care of your words. Protect your peace. And remember, you do not lose when you stay silent with wisdom. Sometimes, that is exactly how you win.